Well, from the Irish hills of Michigan, we head to the hills in Sonoma. It is time for that of the Stars and Stripes throwback season. It's season 6 of the Stars and Stripes as the drivers head to race number 4 for the first road course of the season. The drivers are ready for the winding up and hills of going through Sonoma Valley. Drivers are set, they're ready to go, and so are we up in the booth for Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Zach Hall. Zach, it's the second race of our road course, you could say road course streak we're going for our broadcast. We had that at Watkins Glen yesterday for the Wicked Racing League. Tonight, Sonoma, and in a car that the Stars and Stripes have never touched a road course with. This is going to be a fun one to watch.
I think it's going to be fantastic. First off, this course, just amazing overall. Just the up and down elevation changes. The load and the wear it puts in the tires, I think, is what makes the racing so good here. And not only that, you're in Sonoma, California, where the weather is so hot that it's 119 degrees out in the track temperature. So that's going to play into the grip levels out here tonight and how these drivers figure out how to make these ARCA cars work best out there on this racing surface. As you can see that weather being pulled up there for all you folks at home, and it's clear skies here, so it's going to be definitely low grip, but tons of sliding around and trying to keep traction as these drivers are going to keep holding their tires for the whole run.
I mean, I could say this, weather-wise, it certainly does look almost exactly like it was today. I live just outside of the racetrack, and this is practically what the weather was feeling like today. So drivers getting a good test of this California Sonoma weather, and that track temp, like you noted on, looking cool, as looking hot as the weather is going to be cool. See how much the track wants to cool off as the drivers are entering qualifying. We're going to have 10 minutes. Usually it's 5 minutes when we go to our oval courses. Road courses, they get 10 minutes because of how long this is going to take for them to get around this course. For all that of 2 laps, technically 3 if you count that first warm-up lap to get out there on track. But Zach, they are running in these ARCA cars, a little bit of a throwback for the Gen 4 machines. And these drivers certainly have a tall task. Like I said, this is the first time these drivers are running in these ARCA cars at a road course. They didn't start running at a road course until season 2 when this league moved over to the trucks. They keep on changing each car each season that they run until last season where they kind of ran out and you have to go back. So now we're going to be seeing these drivers getting themselves into a place where they get to try out a brand new car at a track that they've only ran one other time in this series.
Yeah, brand new car and a track, like you said, they've only ran one other time. And I tell you, it's definitely one of the more difficult road courses. It's so technical with the elevation changes. You got the really tricky section of the S's here that I think the drivers are going to have a tough time trying to tangle with all night long as we're watching Kevin O'Keefe here on his qualifying lap. And these are going to be important qualifying laps. It's 40 laps straight here. No cautions, nothing to bring this race to a halt. So you want to qualify as well as you possibly can. And this first qualifying lap is most likely going to be the lap that is the fastest one, as those tires really do wear out here, and you really will see a drop off the speed. Very unlike what we saw with that next Gen Cup Series car last night with the Wicked Racing League. You're going to see a lot of fall off here, and tires be a huge subject of topic all throughout the night. So drivers got to really learn how to manage that and keep their speed throughout the whole run, or they're going to be off track and in the dirt and in the sand where you don't want to be, because that's an easy excursion into that wall.
As well with tires, fuel's going to be a thing of talking point. It's going to be 40 laps here tonight. That was something we didn't get to see last night because of the shortened distances from each stage that was ran at Wicked. So drivers got to test their skills on when they want to come in for tires, as well as when they can come in for fuel to maximize their speed and strategy here tonight, as drivers putting in their first time lap, and it's going to be that Kyle McCoy topping the board. The drivers that I'm curious to watch out for, there's obviously one big favorite who's won every single road course event. That's going to be Scott Rickard, who bounces up to second place. That is not where the 32 I was expecting to see here on this leaderboard for qualifying.
Yeah, very easy to underdrive qualifying. You know, when you go out there in a qualifying lap as a driver here at these road courses, you know you cannot get any incidents. So that what we mean by that is you cannot stick a tire off this racing surface or onto that dirt, because if you get that off track, it will invalidate that lap time. So a lot of drivers, I think, worry about that. So they kind of back everything up just that little bit more to make sure they don't have any issues. But we'll see if the second lap is where Scott Rickard can find the speed and the pace he needs to get himself on pole position. But yeah, not what we thought we'd see, especially with the 1797 he ran in practice. So a good bit off of that. Gonna have to find some grip here as Kevin O'Keefe. He'll be coming across the line for his second lap, and we'll see exactly what he produces here with a 1:19.27. So that keeps him fourth on the board with his first lap being his fastest lap.
And as well, Kyle McCoy tried to best his laps. Same for Ross Tatum. Both of their second laps invalidated for themselves. Scott Rickard's second lap coming out of the corner, trying to see if he can get any faster. It was a 1:18.712. That was the fastest lap for this 32 on his first go. And it gets a little bit faster, and it's going to count. Scott Rickard, top of the board for the 32 machine.
And that's an excellent job to do it on the second lap. Most of the time, for most of these drivers, we've seen it's come on the first lap due to those tires starting to wear and starting to heat up and lose grip over that second lap course. And Scott Ricker there just finds the pickup that he needs by 0.3 of a second and holds that pole position over Kyle McCoy here. As now we get to see the 10 of Joshua Robinson to see how he can make his way around the track. He had a 120.1 in that practice session, and right now that would put him around the 11th position on the board. So we'll see if he can produce something similar or find a little bit of pace as he almost ducks off there, and that was close to being an off track there by dipping that tire off into the sand.
And that first lap invalidated. We'll see if the second one will count. And I was expecting a lot of things from Joshua Robinson as he gets extremely close to the outside wall, and he did touch it. He just parks it, says he's done. And I was expecting a lot from that of the 10 as you see that Jason Grattan having issues. Here's the 97, Zachary Nelson, who is going to get on course. Haven't seen the 97 at all this season. Excited to see how their first race is going to run for themselves as this 97, 10th on the board, currently gets close to that of the water barrels on the entry of pit road, trying to have a high arcing, goes a little bit too wide, could be costly on time. Coming to that of turn number 12 to finish out this third lap for the 97, hoping it's faster than their first, and it's not. It's going to be slower. Will stay in 10th place for that is Zachary Nelson. But touching back to Joshua Robinson in the 10 machine, he challenged Scott Rickard last season in that of the Gen 7 Cup car when they were at COTA, the Circuit of the Americas last season. Put so much pressure on Scott through that whole entire race. Just seems like Joshua Robinson not feeling too comfortable with being in these ARCA machines like we've seen some other drivers really step it up as Jason Grattan loses it through the S's on the downhill climb.
Comfortable is not what they are definitely feeling for sure, Sam. So yeah, Grattan there trying to hold on to his car, but yeah, Joshua has a little bit of head scratcher, and it does come down to a lot of times to how the cars drive. That next gen car has tons of grip. You can really attack the corners. It's got much bigger brake systems on it, so you can really get deep into those corners. And it drives off a lot better. The tire is wider, so it has a lot more grip to it than that with the 18-inch tire and the wider surface on it also. So it adds to that grip level, and that's what you see really come into factor in those slow speed corners at COTA. So yeah, I'm not too surprised to see him struggling here tonight with him being good in that Gen 7 car, because such a different animal in those two things. But we'll see what he can do here tonight. Right now he's going to be 15th unless someone else can put in a time here in the last 3 minutes or so here, because with his iRating, is where it will place him. So 15th starting position, it's going to be tough to get back up to where his run was like at COTA last season. So definitely a shocking one, but at the same time, just a completely different machine that you got to be able to drive around a very tough and technical course, and it's showing that it's thrown a few of these guys for a loop.
Might be wondering, how is that Jason Grattan out there on track still? Well, the two times that we've seen this 8 machine be spun around has been on the warm-up lap. It's not been on a lap that is counted. This lap could be a counted lap for the 8, but he's got to hurry up and get down this track quickly, because really for Jason Grattan, he is running out of time because there's only 1 minute and 33 seconds left. And Zach, the slowest time that we've seen any of these drivers put in looks to be about a 1 minute and 24 second, which we are now closing in on some of the fastest times that we might be seeing. I don't think Grattan's going to have an attempt for another lap if this lap does not count as the 8 crosses the line.
Let's see where that puts him. It's a 1:21.959, and that'll be 15th on the board. Last of the drivers who've all put in times, but luckily just for his sake, he was sitting 21st before that lap time. If it would have started off iRatings, that'd have been dead last on the field. But with that, he is going to bump himself up to that 15th position. So yeah, he ends the qualifying lap there, and I believe that is going to be pretty much the end of qualifying, as we had the last minute just here to chit chat and get everything situated for this race. But can someone take down Scott Rickard? I think it's going to be the big question on everybody's mind. He's been so dominant in all the road course races here at Stars and Stripes. Kyle McCoy, though, I tell you, he's been looking quick here right now. He's up in that second spot. I think he's going to be the driver that gives him the biggest fit here tonight.
I mean, we got a lot of different storylines coming in tonight, and Scott Rickard, kind of the main front man of all majority of those storylines. He comes in again. He's won the last in all 5 of the road course events that have been ran in the series in the past, that of 4 seasons for this that of the Stars and Stripes, and also as well coming in tonight on a 2-win streak. He won 2 weeks ago at Legacy, Texas. He won last week at Michigan, trying to make this season 3 wins in a row if he can get done here at Sonoma. But behind him, he's going to be having that of Kyle McCoy. He's been looking quick, as well as Kyle Bowling. He's been looking very consistent during practice. And we have that of the 3 rookies in 4th, 5th, and 6th to watch out for. And we'll touch on them a little bit more as drivers are getting gridded up. It's time for us to take a look at our starting results here at the Grand Prix of Sonoma, and it's going to be Scott Rickard with the pole award to watch out for this 32. He's been fast, and he's going to be trying to continue on with it for our Season 2 champ. A driver that's won a lot of championships in this series, and he is hoping for the streak to continue on. It's that of Kyle McCoy in 2nd place. Kyle Bowling going to be in 3rd with Kevin O'Keefe in 4th. That of Brian Scalise going to be in 5th. One of the hottest drivers who is just behind Scott Rickard, it's going to be that of Diego Valle in 6th. That of Derek Offerman in 7th, Andrew Hess in 8th, that of going to be a Christopher Wade in 9th, who's our Daytona winner this season. Then in 10th place, first race of the season, it's the 97 of Zachary Nelson.
11th position, tough qualifying for Allstate after a strong practice session for that 21. Trey Jackson's going to bring it here in the 12th position. 13th is going to be the 17 of Dylan Grimm. 14th position is going to be the 66 of George Kovacic. The last car taking time in 15th is Jason Gratton. 16th is going to be Joshua Robinson after getting invalidated lap time. 17th is going to go to Nate Lynch. 18th is going to go to Jonathan Woods. Dylan Glass in the 19th position. And 20th going to Aaron Hale with Zach Kreitz in 21st to round out our 21 car field.
And I do want to make a correction. This is actually Zachary Nelson's 2nd race if he starts, and it looks like he has girded up. His first race was all the way back at Daytona to start out the season, where he finished at that of 12th. Well, that of 21 drivers, Zach, a little bit of a smaller field than what we've seen before. And I think it could be the tribute of the fact that we're road course racing, and we're at one of some drivers might think the toughest road course to be handling in a car that just is lacking grip, meaning that's why this field is this small.
I think you said it perfect, Sam. And, a very technical and tough racetrack in itself. So I think a lot of drivers just are not willing to tackle this road course and say, you know what, this is the week I take off and I relax on a Thursday night. So I think hopefully they tune in and join us here tonight, because I think they're going to get to see some great action out here through the Wine Country Hills.
As we are going to be seeing, you can pull up our pole sitter, who has been the strongest driver at the road courses. And we're hoping we have that of the 32 machine. Scott, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. We know you're getting ready to take off here. Do you got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, Scott, you are trying to go for 6 road courses for 6 wins. Do you feel like you can continue your streak of winning at the road courses?
I have. Well, I'm on pole, so that helps a little bit. But I want to. I love Sonoma. It's my favorite NASCAR track, so I like getting everyone here.
Well, Scott, you definitely done a good job to get the pole so far. How was the tire wear out there? We know these cars are very low in grip level, but how's the tire wear working out tonight?
I'm not sure. You don't need to pit for fuel, but tire is the question that I'm not even sure about.
Well, Scott, it seems like there's a lot of questions. We're excited to see how they're going to get answered. We'll send you back to your team, get ready for this restart, but good luck here tonight.
Thank you.
As that is Scott Rickard. Again, he is on a 2-win streak coming into tonight. He's won every road course that this series has ever put on, and we are getting ready to go green. Zach, as they're coming around turn 11, what are your final thoughts before we see how these drivers can attack here at Sonoma?
Well, my eyes lit up when he said there's no need for fuel here tonight. Let's see how the pit strategy works out, but turn 1, always a melee at road courses.
Drivers getting set. They're ready to go. Coming through that at turn number 12, side by side in that of the Gen 4 Cup cars. And they're throwing back with some throwback schemes as they're roaring down into turn number 1. It's Scott Rickard, Kyle McCoy. They're already single filing out as the rest of the field, side by side, almost 3 wide, climbed up the hill to turn 2.
Yeah, this is going to be the most dangerous point of the race. Is Kevin O'Keefe well out the groove there, slides up the racetrack. That's going to let Diego Valle in that 77 move himself up to the 4th position, with Kevin O'Keefe sliding into 5th, Brian Scalise in 6th, and Derek Hoffman in 7th as they head up and down through the hills, down to turn number 6.
As the drivers hit down here in the corner, this is running on that of a classic historic track course, so the drivers not going to be going through the carousel, but they are now going to be heading down through the S's of turn 7 and also 8, heading towards 9. All the drivers trying to stay as close as possible, but as you see the long string of drivers snaking their way down the hill, all that I'm seeing, Zach, they're keeping it pretty steady. There's a few drivers that have had some trouble deeper in the field, but I am saying this is looking incredible with the drivers staying as close as they are.
Yeah, it really is looking great here. And I tell you what, through those S's, that's a beautiful sight to see, man. I love that corner. It's so good. And also turn 10 right after the S's. One of the most critical corners you see as they come down here to turn 11 is hairpin. You set somebody up in that turn 10 high-speed corner, you'll be able to make that pass down here on the inside as they all come through single file as everybody makes it through the first lap unscathed.
Through the first lap, all 21 drivers make it on through and surviving that first lap go. But for the lead, it's going to be out of the turn 2, heading into that of 3A and 3B. It's going to be Kyle McCoy closing in the gap here slowly. Is this 28 machine? Tire wear, Zach, that is something we touched on. It looks like already after lap 1, this 28 finding some consistency already. But is it too early to be closing in on this 32?
You know, it possibly could be, but I will say this. Up in the turn 1 that first time through there, Scott Rickard had a big moment. He actually had a sizable gap, about 3 to 4 car lengths, as he does pull out now a good little gap here heading down to the S's as he got out of turn 7 there very, very well. But, you know, a big moment for him going up in the turn 1, and that was what allowed Kyle McCoy really to close right into that almost back bumper as they come through 10 here. It looks like McCoy very good through there. He's able to stay somewhat close. We'll see. You know, keeping the pressure on is a very vital thing when you come to road courses. If you just allow that driver out there to get really far out ahead, it allows them to relax. It allows them just to even hit their marks even that much better and not have to really push the car to its fullest extent. When you're right on that back bumper within a good couple car lengths and in that mirror, it makes everything that much more tough when you're leading up front.
2 laps in, and Scott Rickard has led all 2 laps so far. As we drop back to 4th place, get a look at one of the hottest drivers coming into tonight, Diego Valle. He has had a very strong run last week, coming up just that of a couple of hundredths off from winning and taking the win at Michigan. Looked extremely quick at Texas 2 weeks ago. And here tonight, Zach, he was feeling it. All the times we interviewed him, he's 77, feeling confident heading into Sonoma.
Yeah, that was the one thing I took away from last week. Is he was very confident coming into this race, and you know, not surprised on bit at all. He's had a great run through much of the season so far, but we'll see if he can, continue that trend of a good run as he's right now in 4th. A good little bit back from Kyle Bolin in that 24 machine as he sees up ahead Kyle McCoy and Scott Rickard still very close up front. But one driver I'm watching that's moving his way up already through the field, Ross Tatum, up to 8th, started in the 11th position, did not have a good qualifying lap. Like you said, I think he got invalidated on that first lap, couldn't get the second lap as well as he wanted to, and he had some fast times in practice, so we'll see can Ross Tatum start to move his way forward. He's already up to the 8th position.
Yeah, Ryder Ross Tatum had that of the second fastest time during practice, and coming in tonight, one of the drivers I'm expecting a lot from. He has been trying to be battling as strong as possible. If you've been watching here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we've seen this 21 look good in other leagues that we cover. He's been very consistent in those other cars, but here in the ARCA machines, kind of like what we've seen from that of Joshua Robinson. There's been ups and downs. For this 21, he almost had a fantastic run at the end of Michigan, was caught up in a late wreck with even that of Andrew Hess in front of him. So these 2 drivers oh man, what a hold on there with the 21. These drivers going to be wheeling it as they had their issues last week, trying to have a recovery run. Is that a Ross Tatum here tonight?
Well, if that was ever a moment, that's a huge one for Ross Tatum right there. What a save by him. That had to take such quick hands and reactions, not only from the hands on the wheel, but on the gas pedal, on the brake, because he had to stabilize that car very quickly as it stepped sideways. So great job by him saving that thing as he's going to continue to try to go forward. But Trey Jackson here in the 25 machine back here going through the S's now down to the high-speed turn 10 left-hander here as they head down to that hairpin turn 11 right now in the 12th position, right where he started.
Right where he started, and you know, that's not always the worst thing in the world, especially road course racing. For some drivers, it's not always you're aiming for big finishes. It's about surviving, racing the track itself, and not the drivers around you. As we saw that big scare and save by Ross Tatum, for most drivers, their goal is to continue, if they have that type of a moment, is to hold on and save themselves. As we bounce ourselves ahead of Trey Jackson up to the battling that's happening for 8th place. It's that of Ryan Scalise as well as Christopher Wade battling with one another, and Scalise has been going backwards for the 48. Seems to be those rear tires a little bit too lit up as he has been fading, and Christopher Wade, one of the drivers, is trying to capitalize on as many positions as possible.
Well, we heard Scott Rickard say there is, you know, he didn't have too much clue what the tire wear was going to do, but it's already showing. Even if it's not tire wear, it's just tire overall grip. That 48 machine was struggling for it out of that turn number 4A complex there as he came through and down to 7. So trying to keep it all together, and that's the one thing they're going to struggle with. You know, a lot of times in these stock cars, you don't really struggle too much for that front grip. Yes, these cars don't turn on a dime. They don't have tons of downforce on them. But the one thing you do have is tons of horsepower. When you do have that, it really lights up the rear tires when you're coming out of these slow speed corners. And right now, Scalise holding on as he's sideways once again. And I think even Wade there missing the corner just a tiny bit. This group is just trying to make laps here, is already down from that fifth starting position down to 8th, and already have Wade here all over the back deck as they head up to 1.
Curious to get your thoughts on how these drivers can go through this track, and I think riding on board with Christopher Wade here might give us a good picture of what it's like to drive around this course. Talk about the ups and downs. This track is so vertical on the amount of time that you have to go up and down the track, but Zach, we're going through 3A and up to 3B. Give us thoughts on going through this track.
Well, right there you saw 3A and 3B. You go up over the crest, you lose the rear end as it gets light. Now down in the 4A over this curb. Very tough corner there to put the power down as you head to one of the hardest braking zones here, down into 7. And you're going to ride this curb here. Try to get a little bit of rotation in that car. Great job by Wade there. Maybe even kiss the curb just a tiny bit as you head down towards the S. Is one of the fastest complex of corners we have in NASCAR when it comes to road courses. And right here, you just got to be smooth on that power and on the wheel, as now down to the high speed, the most fast portion of this track, down the turn 10. And this is the most critical corner in my opinion. This right-hander here, if you can get a great run through it, this heads down to that best braking zone and best passing zone you have on this track of the turn 10 hairpin here.
And going through the hairpin, you're seeing drivers going to easily miss the apex, and that's what the 48 did there, heading to that at turn 12. Looking good for that of Christopher Wade, and across the line. But Zach, this is when he comes climbing back up the hill.
Yeah, climbing back up the hill, and this is the elevation change you talked about. You go up the hill here, you get tons of grip going up the hill, but as you crest over that hill, that's when the car is going to get at its lightest point and be the hardest to put its power down there as they come through 1, now down to 3A and 3B. Once again, you go down into 3A, and then you climb up over 3B, and look, that 48 battling the rear end, just like I said, it lightens up there. And even the 77 Diego Valle up ahead of him. These drivers are going to be coming up close to him here as he's getting back up to speed as he's spun coming out of 7.
And there goes Kevin O'Keefe going on by, as that was a lap around here at Sonoma. Great showings there from Christopher Wade, and you also saw that of, you know, Scalise having his issues, but I think the biggest thing that I was seeing there was the shifting times that we were seeing some of these drivers attack, especially coming over the crest, coming down the hill, seeing that of Christopher Wade, trying different places to shift. That's also places where you can gain and lose time, as well as grip, Zach, on how these drivers can try to attack these corners.
Yeah, the shifting is so critical when it comes to slowing down for the corners. As you can see on our screen, as Valle goes through the gears here on this front straightaway, it's so critical going through the gears. You got to blip that throttle, but the biggest thing is going down the gears. When you go down the gear in this gearbox for these stock cars, you have to match the revs. When you push, go to downshift, you actually have to push the accelerator in to get the revs to match what gear you're going in, or it does not work very well. You can easily wheel hop, and that wheel hop sensation is just like you're pretty much riding over I guess you could say a speed bump for sakes, and it just really takes those tires on and off the ground continuously. And if the rubber is not meeting the road, that is not grip being made. So these drivers having to deal with the downshift. But if you're very smooth on that and you can match those revs perfectly, you can gain tons of time through those downshifts and braking zones.
We're seeing that at Diego Valle head down the hill. Drivers that are already hit the bottom of the hill and heading towards that Eternal 11. We got to bounce ourselves to the lead because we might have a pass and a challenge. Here comes that of Scott Ricker trying to defend on the outside. Kyle McCoy hits the lane, perfect preferred spot, and to the lead is the 28. One of the first times that we'll ever see a driver make a pass on Scott Ricker on a road course, and it was Kyle McCoy there.
What a driver to do it to. These two, the most prolific drivers in Stars and Stripes history, and you wouldn't expect nothing less between a battle between these two. Kyle McCoy, I mean, it's been a while as he gets loose coming out of one there. It's been a very long time since we've actually talked to him up here in the booth because it's just not all worked out. He missed those playoffs in the most recent ones and just could not go back to get that championship that he's been, you know, really the best at doing. He's been the driver that we always talk about, just had the clutch factor, was always there at the end of the season and always so good. But now showing here strength early in this race here, able to get by Rickard. And you know, will the tire wear throw Rickard for a loop here? Because you know, we know he's been able to run a fast lap so far, but it seems like as this run goes on, it seems like Rickard's losing grip while McCoy ahead of him is just being much more consistent and patient with his car.
And also, something else I'm noticing is the fact that there's very different styles of attacking the course going down the hill. That's where Kyle McCoy really is starting to find some real good speed, is going down the hill, where earlier in those first 5 laps, it was where Scott Rickard was the fastest. Now Kyle McCoy is faster there, and I think it could be attributed to that, the rumble strips, where Scott Rickard was being so aggressive and it was helping him, but the tire wear just aren't attaching to the ground as well as they were before. Well, that Kyle McCoy, he's been running smooth, not attacking the rumble strips. He's having a little bit of extra grip that can carry him down this lane.
Yeah, now that he's out front too, I'm seeing that rear end step out a little bit more on entries, especially. It looks like that nose is pointing a lot more aggressively for him. So, you know, could this be a little bit of playing possum from the 32? Could he be letting this 28 get out in front of him, let him go burn his tires up? Because, you know, Rickard kind of surprised me. He said that these drivers were not going to have to worry about fuel here tonight. So if they can do the full 40 laps, will you be able to make the tires last for that long? That is going to be my question. And if you're going to be going that full distance, you have to be in the management mode. If you just go out here and try to run the fastest laps as possible, around lap 20 to 25, you're going to find yourself very much struggling. So maybe this is a little bit of playing possum from that 32 and just kind of holding back right now on the reins, trying not to get too over on top of that car. But right now, Kyle McCoy trying to drive away, and there right through turn number 10 there, that right-hander, he is lighting the tires up, sliding through it almost with a drifting style, and that could come back to hurt this 28 as this run goes on.
That it definitely could, but in updates on a few drivers throughout the field have been finding trouble as we keep our sights on our leader. That is the 48, Brian Scalise. Issues through that of the hairpin, found himself hitting one of the barrels and actually has lost one of his front bumpers as well. Jonathan Woods finding himself having to go into pit road after some massive damage, but you see there the 48, Zach, no front bumper as he's trying to pedal his way around this course, but at the same time has no required damage flag, so he's not forced to have to come to pit road.
Yeah, very surprising look there from the 48 machine. No front end there, and you know, that's going to be an issue as he's going to be trying to hold on to it, but drivers are having a tough time. As I even seen Scott Rickard at the top of the hill having some issues for himself. Here's Dylan Glass going up high, allowing the 9 of Kreitz and Aaron Hell to go by. But my question is, how much is that nose going to affect the downforce levels of this car? I mean, this track does have slow speed sections, so the downforce is not going to be as important. But through those high speed, you know, turn 10 corners and through the S's, that's where that front nose is going to hurt Scalise the most. So we'll see if he can make something out of that. It's been a tough night after qualifying 5th for that 48. So no brakes to help get him back into it. But this group back here, they're battling it up still here for 18th, 19th, and 20th.
It might be some of the last drivers on the track and battling for quote-unquote last place, but they certainly have been putting on a great show of Aaron Hill, Zach Kreitz, as well as Dylan Glass. But we bounce back up to drivers inside of our top 10, where you see that of Andrew Hess. Hess, not in the most jam-packed and you know, exciting place to be, but being by yourself, not the worst place if you're doing road course racing. Allows you to really get into your own rhythm. But at the same time, you have to be careful not to get lulled into sleep, especially the fact that we don't have any stage breaks. We're racing a full 40 laps. There's going to be no full course yellows to be thrown. This 5 has to be careful that he doesn't get into that phase of maybe falling asleep on himself. But it certainly does have a pack behind this 5 that's starting to get a little bit racier and trying to figure out how they're going to catch up to this 5.
Yeah, that's one thing you can never do at a road course is just lose focus. It takes complete 100% concentration. Personally from the driver's side myself, at ovals, you're usually talking to your teammates, you're discussing things, really going over strategies all throughout the run because you're just so ingrained. You go down the straightaways for majority of the lap. Here at Sonoma and the other road courses, you will barely hear a peep on the drivers as Zachary Nelson almost getting a little bit too squirrely over those curbs there. Sometimes you can hop a little bit too much of them, but you got to just stay focused here. If you lose any bit of that concentration, you're off track, and that could be game over here tonight. But they do have one fast repair, so if you do have a major incident, you can come back from that. But again, no caution, so if you got to come to pit road and get that work done, you're most likely going to be well outside of contention of getting a good finish.
And looking at the lap times currently right now, just basing it off of our leader at this moment, we see Nelson come across the line. Kyle McCoy, last lap was a 1 minute and 21.39 second lap time. Compared to his best lap, which was around that, a lap 1 or 2, he put down a 1:18.940. So that's about 2 seconds, a little bit over 2 seconds slower is our leader compared to their fastest time. Same is going to be set for second place. Third place, a little bit closer, about a second and a half off their fastest time. I've got to say, looking at pace, Kyle Bowling as well as Kevin O'Keefe, they are looking very quick and close to our leaders, at times faster than our leaders, so they're going to be ones to watch out for. But Zach, I mean, looking at the times of difference compared to last lap to their best lap, it's kind of showing us that pit road could be calling here soon.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be calling at some point because I'm seeing big mistakes out of all 3 of these guys up front. You're like, Kyle McCoy will have a clean lap here and there, and he just went back to the 120.7s. And, same for Scott Rickard, have a clean lap, and then they'll have a very big moment. And when that big moment happens, that's when they lose majority of their time. So it's just kind of like trading mistakes back and forth. And that's only going to get worse. These tires, don't really hit a point where they just start running the same lap times. These things continue to drop off in this ARCA car here, and you're just going to continue to build air pressure. And when you build that air pressure, you pretty much make your basketball of a tire much more solid, and it wants to just bounce on the racetrack and not stick to it as a softer tire would. So it only gets worse from here on out. So I think drivers at some point may be calling for pit road.
One driver that might be in that camp to come in as soon as possible is going to be 10th place runner Derek Offerman. He once was battling right on the back bumper of Christopher Wade and Zachary Kreitz, but you see there on the front left, heavy damage, got into the tire barriers at turn 11, was just carrying way too much speed, couldn't slow down, and it ripped apart that front end, and now just trying to survive at this point. And you're trying to get to halfway. That's the ultimate goal. If you can go a little bit further than that, that's going to help for that tail end of this run. But if you're already struggling on lap 14, coming to pit road now, you're going to have to go a lot further, as that dirt's not your friend either.
No, it's not indeed. I mean, not only does the grip level lower on the dirt, but the dirt also here in iRacing does a good job of modeling it. It sticks to that tire, and you're going to have about a corner of trying to get that tire cleaned off. So it only makes it worse. And look, like you said, Sam, here comes Derek Offerman. He got that damage. He said that he's had enough. He's going to come down, get some probably 4 fresh tires, take a fast repair to fix that car up. I'm interested to see if Scalise looks to do something similar. But, man, this is a tough break for Offerman, who's already got some good damage. And this is only going to make that last run here after he's taking these tires that much more hard by coming in this early.
Some drivers we haven't really talked about here today so far are going to be that of Nate Lynch in the 1, running back here in 16th place. Pretty quiet night for this one machine. The positive note for that of Nate Lynch, he's running pretty similar lap times that he was at the start of the race. He has not really been dropping off on the pace scale, which honestly could be a positive compared to the drivers ahead of him that are starting to really lose time, cannot run as consistently as quick times as they were. So this slow pace and methodical run could be a great run for Nate Lynch, who bumps himself up to 15th due to the fact of seeing some drivers have to go to pit road.
Yeah, my biggest advice always to drivers is just try to keep it on track and stay consistent. Even if you're well off the pace, you're 2-3 seconds off the fast lap time. That does not mean you have to go out there and try to push harder to try to find that speed. You just need to go out there, run your own race, and it's kind of similar to Darlington. Race the racetrack out here. Do not focus on gaining on anybody, losing time to someone. Just go out there, hit your marks, and if you can keep it on track nice and clean and stay consistent, a lot of times you can gain ground on a majority of the drivers ahead of you, and you can be in a much better position coming down to the end of the race. So it's one thing I think drivers need to focus on more, is just not finding the speed and getting the consistency. As we check out the 66 here back in 16th, I'm George Coates.
George Kosick going to be about 3 seconds off of Nate Lynch, but kind of doing a similar thing, running very close to what their times were at the start of the race, trying to stay as consistent as possible. And for the 6.6 machine, George Kosick, again, one of those survival moments, but behind them, Aaron Hale and that of Zach Kreitz, they are starting to struggle through turn 10. And Zach, we're now 16 laps into this race, and I think that's where we're starting to feel drivers really starting to feel the hurt, is that fast corner. Drivers are starting to slip off a lot more.
That corner's the toughest one, man. It's so essential to making speed because that's where you make passes at, and that's just the fastest part of the track. But that's when you're going to heat the tire up the most. I mean, I've seen multiple different drivers go through there just completely sideways, and that will really not only hurt your tires, but make the rest of this much harder. As we're watching Dylan Glass right now, he's trying to make the fastest times he possibly can right now, as he's in the 110s here 1 minute and 10 seconds behind our leaders. So actually just directly ahead of our leaders. As he goes into 7, they're coming out of 4A right behind him. So quickly you're going to see Kyle McCoy and Scott Rickard right behind this 29.
And they are hitting the top of the hill now, and they are closing in quickly, as you see this 32 as well starting to close in on the gap. It actually built up to almost a full second with Kyle McCoy being ahead of Scott Rickard, but at top of the hill coming down, Rickard is starting to find some extra speed and closing in, and that kind of teeter-totter factor is starting to show. Maybe for the first 5 laps, it was Scott Rickard. Kyle McCoy's been the fastest for the past about 8 laps, and now we're starting to see the swing. That Tide machine is right on the back bumper.
Yeah, I had to think this was planned. I mean, he had so much pace in his pocket there from being about 4/10 quicker than McCoy. And when you have that ability to be quicker on that one lap, it allows you to be smart in certain areas of the track. And you got to pick your corners and pick your battles. You know what tire you wear out the most. That's the corner where you look to lean on the less. And as I say that, Scott Rickard has a big moment as they head down to 3A and 3B. So it looks nice and smooth from him sometimes, and then all of a sudden it just steps out. So it just shows us that even he is trying to hold on to this machine. As they're coming up on Dylan Glass now, McCoy going to put him a lap down, and there goes Scott Rickard as well.
And it's going to be actually Kyle McCoy catching that 29 at a pretty bad spot. Had to go wider than he'd like, costing on pace. But Scott Rickard had a terrible turn 7 coming down the hill through the S's and trying to keep all 4 tires on the track surface, as the 32 trying to cut every possible way, but still trying to keep himself stable. As a factor we touched on was that at track 10, it's still staying pretty close to what it was like earlier, to 119 degrees. But an aspect we really haven't touched on is the wind here, Zach. I've been watching it. It has been climbing from that of 5 miles per hour up to that of 10 miles per hour. And as I say that, though, we actually got to go back to the lead, because Kyle McCoy, Scott Rickard find themselves side by side, and it's going to be across the line. The 32 has the pounce, got a nose, but up through the hill, it continue to stay side by side. Scott Rickard going to have the advantage to dive bomb it into the corner, but here comes the crossover move from Kyle McCoy as they head to turn 3A and 3B.
Just a simple mistake heading down to turn number 11 for Kyle McCoy. Just gotten there a little too deep. Probably wheel hopped a little bit, had to let go of that brake not to wreck that car. Washed him up the groove. That allowed Scott Rickard to take it side by side on corner exit and get up alongside this 28 machine. So now Rickard has clean air once again, and that is another factor that plays into this. You got the wind out there, like you brought up, Sam. That is going to affect them mostly here down through the S's, just due to this being the highest speed part of the racetrack and where you need that aero grip the most. But also, not only that, just the downforce level you lose from being in second. You get a ton of dirty air here at Sonoma. This place is a track that you really want to be out in front of the lead because you just get superior grip when you're out there. So right now we'll see if McCoy can fight back, or does Rickard start to open up that gap. Is right here down into 11 once again. Both of them able to get right to the curb where they need to be and see if McCoy can keep the pressure on.
I mean, just from when you were talking there, Zach, it went up to that at 9 miles per hour and dropped to 5 miles per hour. And what's even making it even worse is it's going back and forth from positioning of southeast to southwest as it's going up and down. So drivers are not getting just a simple stream of air. It is moving on top of that as our leaders catch up to Aaron Hale. He's luckily able to get by as they climb up through that turn 3B into turn 4. It's going to be Scott Rickard as well as Kyle McCoy still on top of one another. And I mean, Kyle Bowling, I've got to give big kudos to that 24 machine, still keeping up. And in a scheme that he's running right now in that DuPont 24 Flames machine, I mean, this is a track where you want to be having that scheme and hoping for a little bit of that skill to rub off on you when you're here at Sonoma.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely bringing back the nostalgia points for me. I've watched that scheme go pretty fast around this place. That 24 Flames machine DuPont car had so much speed always around here, and Kyle Bowling doing that justice, no doubt indeed. And, you know, he's here. He's close enough. He's within 2 seconds of these drivers, and he's kept it there for majority of this run. It was a lot quicker than him on that last lap, but, you know, he's there. He's within touching distance, and that's what you need to be at a road course. If you're, 15 seconds, 20 seconds back, that person ahead of you can have a major mistake, and they're not even going to have to really worry about it. But when you're within this 2 second gap like this, those two drivers up there make a simple mistake, just like just stepping out where they have to lift. He's right there on the back bumper, and then if they spin, he's around them. So it's a good position to be in, especially he's got no pressure from behind. He's just watching the battle up front where the pressure's back on his Kyle McCoy. Once again, he gets behind Scott Rickard. He finds a little bit of pace, and it's kind of a cat and mouse game between those top two. So I like the positioning for Bowling to get to watch this.
It certainly is a good position to find yourself in, because the more that they get on top of one another as we hop on board with Kyle McCoy and get a sights through that of the 28, now on the bumper cam, seeing how they're going through the rumble strips, going back and forth as going over that of turn, that of 8, heading to turn 9, and soon to go to the fast turn 10. Do have to give updates. Some drivers in the middle of the field starting to hit pit road. The first of them being Diego Valle, who was up to that of 7th place, deciding to pit. And he was one of those drivers you were talking about, being about that of 15 to 20 seconds back. If a mistake happened in front of him, could be costly. But if Diego gets a couple of laps where these front runners don't come into pit road, we could see the 77 try to close in on the gap of the drivers ahead. And might try a little bit of strategy if these front runners decide not to come to pit road until later on.
Yeah, it's very true. You can get that undercut going as those new tires start to produce better lap times. You're able to close the gap down, and if he does jump in front of him, that's going to cause a factor of when these guys race each other down at the end of the race. So it's going to be fun to watch that moment for these drivers. But as you see, Valle, he just got a little stuck behind Robinson there through the S's, but luckily gets it done before the high-speed turn 10 here. But that, is so critical to get your pit strategy right at a road course. A lot of times people lose races at a road course just due to that. It's just all about the timing, and you can pull big undercuts off, and even sometimes overcuts where you take it that longer distance and you just have that fresher tire at the end of the race to try to make a move on the driver ahead of you. So it's strategies are an open book when you come to a road course, and that's, I think, my favorite part about it. So we'll see how his works out, as pit road was very busy that last time by.
It certainly was, with other drivers that came into pit road being Dylan Grimm and that of Brian Scalise, as Scalise has used that fast repair for the 48. Other drivers that have used their fast repair are going to be the 20 and Derek Offerman, who pitted that as 7 laps ago. Saw him coming to pit road earlier in this run. As we look to that of 5th place runner, that of Ross Tatum. Tatum, one of those drivers who goes into the outside wall, lack of grip in turn 10, strikes for the 21 machine, and he goes straight to pit road.
He's probably saying, well, that's perfect timing. You need to bring it down now because this thing is destroyed on the left side. So we'll get him to pit road here. And get that machine worked on. But yeah, he was doing a great job of gaining spots all throughout the field there after having a tough qualifying spot. So right now, Ross, I think it's been a successful race for him, but I'm sure he wants a little bit more out of it. I'm sure he's going to take that fast repair here to get all that damage repaired here. As it was a good, hard, heavy hit on that left side, and yes, he does get it all fixed.
Well, as the 21 is heading into pit row, this is going to be we're going to see drivers flirting and coming into pit road, and we will give you all that coverage when we can. But this might be the one and only time that we have to go to a commercial break where we're going to go side by side here tonight as you are watching the Stars and Stripes throwback season for season 6 of the Stars and Stripes series. This is race number 4 of the Grand Prix of Sonoma, and it's all here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Again, we're going to go side by side so you don't miss a thing. We'll be back on just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our leaders still have not hit pit road, but man, has it been a blast to watch. A little bit of change as you see our ticker. Drivers are scattered. But before we get to the updates on where drivers are at, we got to give a big thanks to the sponsors that help out here at Stars and Stripes. Starting things off with ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. As well, a big thanks to Next Level Racing. If you want to get yourself in the next level of racing today, go get your Next Level Racing rig right now. Big thanks to all of those sponsors that help out for the Stars and Stripes series. And as well, here tonight, got to give a big thanks to all of our sponsors here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, as we've got that of iRacing, iFlag. If you're looking to get yourself some iRacing, iFlag products, go check them out today and use our promo code Freaky Fast 2022. As well, Zach, we've got some other products that probably won't be used tonight. We have that of the admin box.
That we do, Sam, the admin box here. So no admin yellows being thrown, so no need for it here tonight. But it also has the driver functionality, so you do have a use. It's not only just for admin uses, so make sure you go check them out. One of the best button boxes out there in the sim racing community there at adminbox.com. And with pit roads starting to heat up, they might be hitting that pit in and pit out button very, very soon for these drivers. So make sure you use the discount code as you see on the screen, and they get a discount at purchase.
As well, if you'd like to help us, we are having a charity event. The official date is that of February 11th for our full-length Daytona 500 for that of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Already you can donate, as we've had plenty of people do so. The numbers have been kind of blowing our minds on the fact that we haven't even gotten to race day yet for donations, but drivers have already donated to try to get into the race. Some have donated already knowing that they weren't going to race, but still wanted to help the cause. Of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation helps to find a cure for that of diabetes, as well as finding ways to help families that are dealing with this terrible disease. But Zach, I know that there's minimal spots now that are still available, as well as there's ways for drivers and also viewers to donate.
Yeah, there is multiple different ways there to view and donate there, as we put the link out in the chat for the charity, so make sure you check that out. And while you're out there on the interwebs, you can also check out our Freaky Fast merch there, as you see on the screen there at Store Frontier. And you can help get yourself and join the Freaky Fast family by getting some nice, very, very nice merch, I must say. It's very, very comfortable and very, very cool to see people when they get it out there and rep it. So make sure you head on over and check that out. But man, it's just been a great year to start off this January. And I can't wait to see how this all works out. Over $700 for the charity, and hopefully we can hit that $1,000 goal when we get to race day.
Well, we cannot wait for it, as well as plenty of content here at Freaky Fast Broadcast. And if you're watching the second half of 2022, we started pumping out our top 5 finishes of the month, and we're excited to say that the top 5 finishes of January, there are so many great finishes. I'm struggling to figure out which one's going to be the best that should be in the top 5. We might need some help from you and the viewers. If you go back, watch our broadcast, go watch just the finales if you can. Comment which one do you think deserves to make it to the top 5 list. There's so many good ones this month. Again, it's all the races inside of the January month that we have broadcasted here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Help us out. Which one should be in the top 5? As on screen, drivers are starting to get hectic. This is the battle for that of 13th, 14th, and 15th, with that of Scalise, Brad, as well as Nate Lynch, as they are on top of one another, and just passing them is second place of Kyle Bowling. Wait, second place for Bowling. Zach, what happened to Kyle McCoy?
Yeah, big moment for him down in the turn 11. Just lost the rear end, and it just is all went pear-shaped from that point on for him. He's back in the 3rd position, and right now 13 seconds behind Scott Rickard. So unfortunately for Kyle McCoy, it does not look like it's going to be a race-winning night. He's just going to have to try to settle for what he can find out there on the racing surface. So I think the biggest focus for him now is just to keep that number 23 of Kevin O'Keefe behind him. So I think pit road, might be done for the night, because Scott Rickard brought it up. He said he didn't feel like fuel was going to be an issue. So I think the drivers that have decided they wanted to get tires have already gone ahead and done it. And I think the rest of these drivers may just decide we're going to do a no stop here.
Well, now that kind of makes things a little bit more interesting on the fact that looking at the pace, it's about a 1.5 second difference between that of Diego Valle, who's the first driver who came to pit road. He's back in 8th place. Issue, he's 40 seconds off of our leader of Scott Rickard. But if Rickard comes into pit road, Valle would take the lead by just a minimal amount of distance. So Scott Rickard having a second, about that of 5.5 seconds, a little bit over that of a difference over Kyle McCoy. He's in a great spot. Doesn't need to really put the pressure on his tires, but Valle, he has to be aggressive here, knowing that there is an opportunity. If the drivers ahead of him have to come into pit road for tires, he can pounce on that advantage.
Yeah, not only that, he just needs to be aggressive also to, if these drivers don't pit, he needs to gain every little advantage he can, because right now he's about 3 seconds back off of Christopher Wade, and then about, again, 3 seconds off of Zachary Nelson, and about 10 off of Andrew Hess. And I think personally, he has a good shot to go get Andrew Hess. I think from there, if the other drivers stay out, he's probably going to be looking at around a top 5 to 5th place position. So unless some mistakes come out, but yeah, he's going to have to definitely stay on it here and try to gain as much ground as he possibly can, because I think some drivers have just elected, you know what, we got the fuel to do it. We just need to try to make the most consistent lap times here and get to the end of this 40-lap race.
And as the drivers come around, 11 laps to go, about to be 10 laps to go here at Sonoma. For the drivers out there on track, it is, I mean, Zach, I know you personally have ran this course many a times. I know not in this vehicle, but they've been out there on track racing for green flag racing wise for about 42 minutes now, and only that at 31 laps as we're at the 10 to go marker. But still, these drivers, 10 to go, it could end very quickly. At the same time, this is that final push that they're going through.
Yeah, the final push. And, you know, this is where the fatigue starts to come in. You know, we go over racing. Yes, there is a little bit of fatigue. More than anything, I feel over racing, you get the mental fatigue. But here you get the double dosage. You get your foot is being worked completely around this whole track because you're shifting, going up and down the gears, having to match those revs. So you're pressing that throttle in and out, just not only to make sure you put the power down and go forward, but also on those downshifts and those upshifts. Then you got to throw in the brakes. So by the end of this race, 40 laps, these drivers are going to be pretty tired when it comes to that foot. And then also just the mental fatigue of staying concentrated. This track, you feel like sometimes when you're driving around it, you're not even blinking because you're just trying to make sure no mistakes are happening from the driver's seat. And, you know, if you do have a little bit of a mental lapse, it can easily end your night. So it's, you know, 10 to go, but there's still plenty of racing to be done, and you cannot just roll over and just think this race is over and you got the position you got, because there's still plenty of time here to make those huge mistakes.
That there are, and right now we're seeing that of Dylan Grimm kind of stuck in the middle of the battling for third place as a 17, going to keep fitting themselves side by side with Kevin O'Keefe. O'Keefe's just going to fall in line. O'Keefe is starting to slowly catch up to Kyle McCoy, expecting this battle to close in very quickly, but there is a closer battle of drivers. Well, I thought it was closer, not anymore. That for the battle for 7th place, Diego Valle easily getting by that of Christopher Wade. He goes wide at turn 10, but now Valle is trying to close in on Zachary Nelson.
Yeah, this is going to be those new tires versus those 31-lap old tires. So the difference right now is 21 laps of a difference here. And you're going to see that difference. Right now, Valle running a 120.64 to Zachary Nelson right ahead of him at 120.98. So I think quickly here, with that only about second gap between those two, that 77 should be on the back bumper, and heading down to turn 11, he should have a chance to possibly make that maneuver just like he did there past Christopher Wade out of 10. And you can still see even Valle, he's getting after it. He's sliding sideways, and look right there. Oh, super big slide. That's going to lose him a good bit of time that he gained on him, but still able to somewhat cut into the distance.
Trying to cut in any way possible at this time. But Zachary Nelson, I mean, of the drivers inside of our top 10, he is the second biggest mover of our top 10 drivers, as he is up 4 spots from where he started in 10th place. Keep that nose clean, running patient laps. And I gotta say, Zachary has done a great job of keeping himself in a pretty safe place to be. Biggest mover so far is that, oh no, as I say, that a little bit of commentator's curse goes over that 97. But overall didn't hit the wall, so at least he's got that positive. But here comes that 77 right behind him.
Yeah, I mean, he did a good job of, like you said, not hitting the wall. I mean, we saw Ross Tatum, he got wide there and out into the dirt, and it really shot him out straight towards the wall. Nelson able to hold on to it and actually still hold position over Valle here coming down to the end. And I think the biggest thing they need to focus on here is, yes, they need to battle Valle to try to hold the position, because there was 8 to go. If you can hold him back, you can hold him to a 6th place position. But they also have Ross Tatum in the 9th position, still coming forward here, and he's about 5 seconds behind this group. So we'll see, can Ross, run them down here in the final 8 laps with those fresher tires at about a second and a lap faster here. He should have a shot at it, but you can't make any mistakes to make it that much more easy on the 21, because it's been a good race so far for the 97 as he goes wide there in 7. This is going to let Valle get the nice easy pass heading down towards the S, and that's what he wants to see, as he may have a shot to try to go run down Andrew Hess, but he's going to have to be very clean and concise, because it's about a 5.5 second gap with 7 to go.
Yeah, that's 5th place is probably the best spot that Valle can probably get to, but he needs to run perfect lap times to get there with the tire wear that's starting to build up more and more as he's closing in on the lap duration as the same as when he came into pit road and was struggling at that time. So Diego's hoping for the best, but before we start seeing issues pop up for that 97, I wanted to touch on 10th place runner. That's Joshua Robinson. Again, Robinson, one of those drivers we expected a lot coming in tonight, just the fact that he performed so well at COTA last season, but that was in the Gen 7 Next Gen Cup car. And in this ARCA machine, biggest mover up 6 positions, showing that he's at least kept the nose, in this car on track for the majority of the time. But the 10 and 10th place, I think he'll take 6 positions over from where he qualified.
Yeah, starting at 16th, you don't expect a lot out of Sonoma. So to come up in 10th, I think he'll be pretty happy with that, especially. Even looking at it, he just ran a 1:21.59 right there last time by. His best time's a 1:21.25. He's turning some of the best laps out there on track with the guys on the older set of tires. He just hasn't had that raw speed really to take off on the new tires. It seems like it's been nice, consistent pace from him throughout this race. It doesn't look like there's going to be any opportunity to get any more positions unless someone else has a major collapse here in the late few laps. But still, nonetheless, I think he'll come out here with the top 10 saying, well, it could have went a lot worse than it did.
Absolutely. As we're at 6 laps to go, our top 3, think back to that at just 10 laps ago. They were right on top of one another. The gap now from first to third, 15 seconds. First to second, 5 seconds. And at one moment, Zach, they were less than about a second and a half from one another for the first about 20 laps of this race.
I got to think that this 28 here, Kyle McCoy, who's now back, this 15 seconds has just really destroyed the tires. Every time I've looked at his car, it's been sideways here in really the past 20 laps. So I think he's just been trying to hang on to what he can here. He's opened up the gap on Kevin O'Keefe here the last few laps to about a 3.2 second gap there in the background. You see Kevin O'Keefe. So it's still going to be maybe a top 3 finish for him here as we got Kevin O'Keefe coming through 10 here as he's got the lapper Dylan Grimm right there directly ahead of him. So I think it's still going to be a good case for Kyle McCoy of a night where a top 3 where, it could have been worse with that spin there in turn number 11. But when you have the chance to go for a win, especially for Kyle McCoy, who's won so many races before, has been kind of on a downward streak for himself here at Stars and Stripes. He wanted to get back probably on that, top position. But again, you can't doubt Scott Rickard. That guy, he gave up the lead early. I felt like it probably was a little bit of strategy saying, you know what, go ahead, Kyle. I don't need to run my tires out at this point to hold you back. You're quick enough to go lead this race. And that's just the smart decisions you get from road course racers that are very experienced that win races here. They know when to go and know when to kind of hold back. So tough for Kyle McCoy, but I think he'll make the most out of it here tonight with a top 3 finish.
Also you got to give credit on the fact that, Scott Rickard has been the dominator when it comes to road courses. He's won every road course that the series has ever put on, and it looks for that streak to continue forward, and as well looking to be his 3rd win in a row to start this season off in such a strong fashion. But we look at some of the rookies that have performed here tonight. You got Kevin O'Keefe, Diego Valle, as well as that Zachary Nelson, all inside of our top 10. And when we look at this rookie class, the majority of them all performing well, except for that of Jonathan Woods that found himself back at lap 10 having some major issues and deciding just to park it for the night. But all the other rookies running well. You also see that of the 48 of Scalise just outside of the top 10, the 48 machine. He's trying his best. He's had some issues, but overall, I got to say for the rookie class, solid night for their first showing at the road courses with 4 laps to go.
Yeah, when you can get out of a Sonoma with a decent night, you'll take it. Again, we talked about it. This track's just so technical, and it really takes a lot of experience to get around this track and hit your marks for every single corner around this 12-corner track. And it's just a masterpiece that Scott Rickard's put together. It's so tough to do what this guy's done now. 3 race wins in a row to start the season. You couldn't ask for better momentum. This is like as good as it's going to get, folks. So, if you even look back to Daytona, he was 2nd. So, it's been top 2 all season long for him. And if you didn't think Scott Rickard was back in form, he's definitely crossed all those doubts out of everybody's mind. They know this championship might have to go through this 32 when it comes all the way down to the end of the season.
But as well, Scott Rickard has shown this. I think back to season 4, that's probably the most recent dominant run that we saw the 32 have. He was very strong in the beginning of the season. It was the second half where Kyle McCoy, who ultimately won the championship in that Gen 6 Cup machine, it was Kyle McCoy coming up strong in the second half of the season, where that's when you need to be strong, especially with the playoff format these drivers are going to be running throughout when we get to that tail end of the season. It's not always how you start the season off, it's how you finish. And Scott certainly is proving here for the first 4 races he is the biggest threat, but can he carry this momentum on? Because he has to make sure he does not get into a slump in the middle or later stages of this season, as 3 laps to go. And 32 still, I mean, he's actually kind of been looking pretty smooth. And it's got to be nice knowing that he's got a gap to not have to push it as hard as he was earlier.
Oh, this is the best feeling you can have as a driver out front, especially at Sonoma, where it's so technical and easy to make a mistake on these older set tires with 38 laps on them. Going to be coming here to complete that 38th lap here on the tires. So it's so good to have that gap, because it doesn't make you charge the braking zones. It makes you back up everything, maybe 50 feet earlier than what you would normally. It makes you roll into that throttle, not have to really get into the gas and try to make speed. It just makes everything that much easier. And I would even expect these next 2 laps or so, or 2 to go here, he might even back it up just that much even more, just to make sure there's no major mistakes to put him in within closing distance of Kyle Bowling, because all it takes is one huge slip up where you have to lose a bunch of momentum, and Kyle Bowling can be within a second or 2 of them. And then that's where the pressure starts to kick back up, because if you have another one of those mistakes, it can be all game over. So you got to pay attention to what you're doing here even late. And I think Scott Rickard, he's such a smart road course driver and so dominant that he'll know not to overdrive this car.
Oh, trouble at turn 11. The 97 of Nelson gets spun around off the hood of Ross Tatum. Both drivers having issues at turn 10 going off course in the dirt, just too much. And they have big contact through that at turn 11. And Ross Tatum was trying to make the pass for 7th and 6th, but looks to be too far of a gap now with 2 to go. Those tires being a little bit more chewed up coming to the end of this race. A tough showing for a driver who, turn 10, has been the trouble spot, as Scott Rickard hits that at turn 11 around the bend. Is this 32? And coming to our freaky fast white flag is this machine. And Scott Rickard, I mean, dominance, pure dominance at this road course. At the freaky fast white flag, he just has to hit his marks. He's got 3.5 seconds over Kyle Bowling, and he could easily just cruise around this course and have plenty of time.
Yeah, lost about a second that last time by, but again, that's the luxury of driving up front here for Scott Rickard. He has the luxury just to be able to hit his marks and just make sure he gets this 32 back home nice and safe and put it in victory lane for this 3rd time in a row. I mean, that is going to be an excellent field. I can't wait to hear his thoughts on that, but it's been a dominant performance so far, as it's all downhill from here and all the way down to the checkered flag. And Scott Rickard can feel those feelings probably rushing in, as the gap is dropping, but not quick enough.
He's just got to make sure he stays on track down through the S's. Is that a Scott Rickard as he goes over the last little bit of a mound, hits down the course through that at turn 9, hitting his marks to turn 10. Is this 32, the last real hard braking zone out of the exit of turn 10 into turn 11 for the hairpin. This 32 machine of Scott Rickard hits his marks out of the corner. It's easy, steady, and looking perfect, as he stays perfect at the road courses, winning every single one of them. And now 3 in a row for season 6 for Scott Rickard out of the first 4 races. This 32 is on fire this season.
Yeah, he's on fire for sure, and I just got to correct myself a little bit. It was 3rd at Daytona, so all 4 finishes in the top 3. So, I mean, it could have been 2nd, but hey, whatever. It's still good in my book when you bring home, an average of pretty much a 1.3 or so finish. So, great job by him, man. We always knew this was his stomping ground, and he showed it once again.
That he certainly did prove, and as well other battles that were on track. Diogo Valle going to hold off that of Christopher Wade for 6th place. That was the closest finish coming to the line. But 1, 2, 3 going to be the 3 drivers that pulled away from the rest of the field and able to hold steady for themselves. Kevin O'Keefe almost caught up to that of Kyle McCoy, but Zach, his 32 machine, certainly going to be a favor to watch out for the rest of the season. But the rest of the season, certainly going to a couple of unique tracks. We're heading to that of Homestead next week, then Dover, Rockingham, and then Atlanta. Still not 100% sure if that's going to be Old Atlanta or New Atlanta. I believe that we might be going to that of Old Atlanta, but I can't, again, not 100% sure on that confirmation. But if we're going to New Atlanta, that certainly is going to be a beast for these drivers to handle in this machine, as the 32 gets to burn it down.
Yeah, nice burnouts here from him, and the excitement, I'm sure, setting in 3 wins in a row. You don't get to do that many times in your sim racing career, especially at a league that he's had such a prolific career at and has had great battles, and, you know, he's had ups, he's had downs, and right now it's definitely on the upward side. So great job by him, but also got to give a shout out to Kyle Bowling, man. 2nd place finish for him. That's huge for him, because entering tonight, you know, Kyle Bowling didn't have the greatest runs coming into this season so far. No top 5s, no top 10s. Right here, he's going to leave coming in 17th in points. He's going to gain a good bit on the group up ahead of him.
Zach, we talk about history books, and this 32 continues on with them. Another stat that's crazy, Scott Rickard now is just 1 win behind, having the most wins in that of the Stars and Stripes series history, behind that of Kyle McCoy. We'll see how those want to flare up heading into next week. But for us here tonight, we still have the post-race show where we'll talk to our top 2 and a spotlight driver. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You saw that game to give transition from that of the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, Research Foundation. Go ahead down to the chat if you'd like to go join and donate to help us with our charity event. hoping to find a cure and helping families with the disease. Tonight is the post-race show for the Stars and Stripes throwback season for season 6 of the series, as that of Scott Rickard continues on his dominance, winning his third race this season in a row. And can anyone stop him? The question might be answered next week. But for tonight, he gets to celebrate. Scott, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, Scott, you dominate again at a road course. They've ran 6 of these in series history. You've won all 6. I mean, we talked to you at the start of the race. You weren't sure how this car was going to feel, but man, after running 40 laps, how do you feel about the car in tonight's performance?
The setup could be a little better. It was a little sketchy never in some of these corners with the bumps. But the car I enjoy. I love this truck. Even if the setup wasn't the greatest, I still love this truck and car.
Well, Scott, you definitely showed that tonight, man. We saw you get passed there at the beginning by Kyle McCoy, and take us through that. Was that a plan where you're saying, you know what, you just go ahead for right now? I'm trying to keep my tires together because, like you said, we were going all 40 laps on a set of tires. Was that part of the management game there?
Yeah, as soon as he get one inside there, I'm just gonna sit here and try and save some more tire and let him go out use his tires up. So I even said it when I was behind him after he passed him, like he's not gonna have road tires left the way he's sliding around.
Yeah, I mean, that was something we were seeing up the booth and curious on how long that was going to last for Kyle. It obviously didn't last long enough, but Scott, now that this season, you've just seemed to be hitting a brand new level than what we've seen even before when we started covering you guys back in season 3. But tonight just seemed a little bit different. We're now heading towards that Homestead, Dover, Rockingham, the next 3 races. Do you feel like you can continue this streak? You've won now 3 in a row. Can you go 5 or 4 or more?
Homestead's I've either been really good at Homestead or really bad at Homestead. So we're finding out there when we get there for practice what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how well you can perform. We hope that it's on the better side. But Scott, I mean, know you've got your usual people to thank, so now the floor is yours to thank them all.
Everybody at the team and my dog.
That's going to be Scott Rickard in the 32 machine. Congratulations on your 3rd win this season in a row. Good luck next week.
Thank you.
As we go to victory lane, we head to 2nd place for that of Kyle Bowling. And certainly a strong run by this 24 machine. And given this scheme, very good runs throughout at this course. But Kyle, it's Sam and Zach of the booth. Congratulations on 2nd place. Man, how are you feeling after this? Because it looked like this track combination with this car was a handful.
Oh, it was a handful, but it was super fun. That was a ton of fun. And anytime I can finish one of these road course races like 40 laps like this, and I'm only 3 seconds behind Rickard, that's a win.
That it is, man. I tell you, great job tonight, Kyle. And this is going to be a good momentum shift for you because we saw you having a good run at Texas, got caught up in that incident there late in that race. It kind of took you out of good contention. But first top 10, first top 5 of the season. How does that feel to come out of here with a top 2 even?
It's a little earlier than last year for sure. This is a little earlier than or last season that I'm talking to you guys. No, this is good. Yeah, this is kind of this 2-week stretch here of Sonoma and Homestead are kind of I had these circled as spots where I can make some moves. But I need to get some points stacked up because I'm gonna be missing at least 1 or 2 races possibly here in March. So I gotta get some points stacked up here.
Kyle, certainly with these upcoming tracks, I know we've seen you perform well at some of these in other vehicles, but these ARCA cars so different from what we've seen before. How do you feel like any of the other vehicles can help you translate some speed as we're heading to that of Homestead, Dover, and Rockingham?
Dover and Rockingham, it's hard to say. But Homestead just for me, Homestead's been one of those tracks where whatever car I hop into, I can run really well there. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why, but Rockingham hasn't been bad to me in the past, neither has Dover. So I'm expecting good runs there as well, but we'll see that happens.
Well, Gal, before we let you go, the floor is yours. And man, good job on getting a 2nd place finish.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys put on a good broadcast. I'll go back and watch this one tonight since I did well. And yeah, thanks to everyone running the league. Put on a good league.
That's going to be the 24 machine of Kyle Bowling. Congratulations with the second place finish, and good luck next week at Homestead.
Yeah, thank you.
As we go from that of second place, we head to third place because, man, our top three were just scattered with speed. But this driver certainly put on a show at times. It was leading some laps, but then fell off. We got that of Kyle McCoy with us. Kyle, it feels like it's been a while since we got to talk with you, but how was this race for yourself here tonight?
Hey guys, I know it's been a second. It was fun. It was really fun. I enjoyed myself a lot. Did not realize that we were gonna go the whole way green. I thought we were gonna have to make a pit stop at the beginning because that's always what we do in road courses, and I should have thought better of that. So killed my stuff in the first 20 laps, and obviously let those guys get away from me. But it was a heck of a time. I enjoyed that track a lot.
Yeah, it looked very fun out there, Kyle, and it's good to hear from you again up here, man. That's two third place finishes now to start the season off. We haven't seen it the other two tracks. How does that feel momentum wise, and how long do you think before that 28 we see him back in victory lane?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to build momentum when I'm only at home every other week. I'm in a busy season right now, so it's hard to get to all the races. But I'll be here hopefully as often as I can be here, and I'll be here next week. I like my chances in this car. The fact that I competed with Scott in his literal sandbox is a confidence boost for sure. And I think this car is going to be good for me going to the next few tracks. I saw Homestead, Rockingham, Atlanta down there. So there's some good stuff coming, and I'll get one of those if I'm here. So you can mark it down.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, having that confidence, knowing that you feel like you can get to victory lane, what is it about this car that just makes you have that slight confidence heading to these tracks?
I think I honestly think it's just like it doesn't drive like straight like the next gen does. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's a little skewed out. You can get a little more loose with it and do a little more throttle control, and I think that's falls into my strength. And we'll see how it goes. But right now, those characteristics are good for me, and I think that's why I was maybe closer here than I have been in other series. So I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, there's plenty of good drivers, and there were lots of them missing tonight that will be back for the ovals. So it'll be plenty of competition, but I like my chances.
Well, Kyle, still congratulations on a great finish here tonight in third. And before I let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Thanks, boys. Shout out to my coworkers and my dad for checking it out tonight. Shout out to you guys for putting on a good broadcast as always. Haven't been here a couple times, but I've been watching. It's always good stuff. Shout out to my team, Nate and George and Derek, and shout out to the league. They always put on good stuff, and looking forward to hopefully making some more races here soon.
Well, that's going to be the 28 Haviline machine of Kyle McCoy. Congratulations on a third place finish, and good luck next week at that of Homestead.
Thanks, boys. It's always weird not hearing the number 7, but we'll see you then.
It's weird for us as well. Again, congratulations, Kyle. Good luck as we go from third place. We take a look at where the unofficial results are here this evening as drivers were going everywhere at times. Not too big of a shuffle from those that were up front to all the way to the end. A few drivers, though, trying to make those late pushes here for this run as this is the Stars and Stripes throwback season 6, race number 4, the Grand Prix of Sonoma. And here are the unofficial results. It's going to be that of seeing Scott Rickard. The domination at road courses continues as he goes to victory lane. Kyle Bowling keeping himself within 3 seconds of our leader. He'll come away in second place. Kyle McCoy comes away third. Kevin O'Keefe almost sliding by to get third, but he'll finish in fourth. And moving up 3 positions is that of Andrew Hess in 5th place. Diego Valle maybe didn't move any position, but certainly got to have a lot of passes coming into pit road, and as well was looking mighty quick at times. Christopher Wade up 2 positions from where he started, finishes 7th. 8th of Rod Statham up 3 positions from where he, 3 positions from where he started. Up 1 position is the 97 of Zachary Nelson, in that of 9th. And Joshua Robinson, biggest mover of the night, up 6 positions from where he qualified, finishing in 10th place. But Zach, the rest of the field, some were losing a lot of spots, but it was just a struggle for the back half of the field.
That it was, man. That is Sonoma in a nutshell, though. You usually got the drivers that really like it, and there's got that talent that really shows through on these road courses, especially one like this where I feel like this track is just so different than all the other road courses we go to. The other ones, are finesse still, but this one just takes a different type of finesse because I feel like the tires really have to work well here for you. If you can't stay on top of those tires, then you're going to be in a huge amount of trouble. And I think that's what Scott Rickards just got figured out. He knows when to go and when not to go. I mean, he heard him. He talked about it. He said, I'm going to let, the 28 go, and I don't think he's going to have good rear tires by the end of this race. And he predicted it well because we saw the 28 spin in turn 11. So it just shows you if you're not planning for that, long distance run, you can really get yourself in trouble. And it really takes a good bit of finesse to get around this amazing road course.
Finesse certainly was shown. The rear end's kicking out, and we might see even more of that next week as the drivers head to South Beach for that of the Homestead at Miami race. Excited to watch that one as here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we're kind of finishing out the middle portion of our road racing coverage. We had Wicked last night. Tonight, Sonoma race is done, but we got one more road race to finish out our 3-race streak, which is going to be on Monday night. The ISRC Truck Series, they head back to Watkins. They head to Watkins Glen, but with a little bit of a twist. They're running at the boot, and Zach, that is going to be a twist that a lot of fans haven't seen at Watkins Glen, unless you've been watching that of IndyCars or even that of IMSA. But for that of Trucks, Cup, or Xfinity, this is going to be a completely different beast for these drivers to handle.
I can't wait. I've always, I like Watkins Glen. I'm a fan of the track. I know some people love that as like their favorite road course that NASCAR runs. I've never been the biggest fan of it as a driver just because I feel like it's probably one of the most least technical road courses. But when you throw the boot in there, that's where the technicality of the track is at, in my opinion. You don't really have, a short, fast road course like it is there at Watkins Glen. It's kind of more, it feels like a speedway type road course when you run that normal Cup version. But with the boot added, you're going to add an elevation change, corners that are tight and twisty and really technical. So I can't wait to see who can master it. I mean, we saw a good race there last year. I mean, but we saw kind of, some mayhem on some restarts. So I expect a lot going into that. And I really am excited to see how it plays out. I've never seen the oval stock cars go to the boot version of Watkins Glen. So I think it's going to be quite a show for all you fans at home.
Certainly should be a good one as well. More coverage going to be on Tuesday night for the Full Send Racing Series as their Truck Series heads to going a little bit more of oval traditional tracks come back. Same for that of Wicked Racing League in the Next Gen Cars on Wednesday. Then on Thursdays, we're going to be back right here. That of Homestead going to be the next race where we get to see these drivers in that of the Gen 4 Cup Series, otherwise known as the ARCA Cars. They will be back to coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Can't wait for it. But for tonight, thank you for joining us on your Thursday evening. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else that helps out here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you Monday for our next broadcast, Watching the Trucks.